So the message Trust is 30 years old. It's got me thinking about the past, some of the amazing experiences we've had and the way God's blessed us in so many ways. My friend Mark Pennells, who'd been doing lots of the schools work with his band Except for Access, came to see me and said, Andy, I'd love to do something called The Message to Schools. Would you come in with me to schools? Would you be the main evangelist? I'll do my pop music, you do the preaching and sharing. So I said, yes, Mark. And I truly caught the bug for youth evangelism like never before. By going into schools for half my life, doing lessons and doing assemblies and seeing beautiful things happen. And I was also doing some funny rapping to just try and as a platform for the gospel for my own evangelism. And I used to support Mark. We'd do the schools week, I'd do a couple of tracks, and then he would do his pop music, and then I'd come on and preach. One day in the studio, putting together some of my rap tracks, I'd been reading an amazing book by Duncan Campbell, who was the evangelist at the heart of the last major revival in the UK, 1949. There was a massive move of God in the Scottish Hebridean Islands. I was in the studio with our producer Mark and Zark, and we were working on a track together.
Do you need it? Can you feel it? Do you need it? Will I see you there at the pearly gates?
It wasn't very cool, but actually there was something about it. There was a cry in that song, and we put the beat together. We used trippy beats because rave music was really big, and I started to do that song, and we noticed the kids went absolutely nuts for it. We even produced a little tape to sell really in schools so the kids could take our music home, and it came with a little tract explaining the gospel, and that tape blew up. And record companies started to approach us, and we even had Warner Brothers approach us and some big labels wanting to distribute our music globally. That was never the plan. Somebody got in touch with us, said they'd heard this track, this funny revival track, all about the Scottish Hebridean Islands, and they had a cassette tape of Duncan Campbell preaching about that time. I said to Zark, our producer, wouldn't it be amazing if this old bloke had a real quirky voice that we could put on a rap track, and we could do this rave track, and it didn't have a vocalist, it just had Duncan Campbell sharing about full-blown revival. He said the most incredible things we've ever heard. He told us about a time they were praying in a barn in the centre of the Hebridean Islands, an island called Lewis, and they were praying in this little barn, and at 3 o'clock in the morning the barn began to shake, and all the people in the prayer meeting ran out, and lights were coming on all across the island, and people were running out and kneeling down in the dirt and repenting. You couldn't find a single person who wasn't seeking after God. He told about this time, and we chopped up that preach and put it into a track, and there it is, literally my favourite worldwide message track.
At that moment, something happened in that barn. A power was let loose that shook the parish from centre to circumference. In a matter of minutes, 3 men were lying prostrate among the straw, having fallen into a trance. Men were kneeling, women were crying to God for mercy. God was moving in mighty revival power, and the desert was made to rejoice and blossom as the rose. So real, so wonderful was this sense of God. So real, so wonderful was this sense of God.
All over the UK. We need a move of God like that to turn the tide of this culture that is moving away from God more and more. We need God to break out. We need the presence of God to be so real, so wonderful, as it was right across the Scottish Hebridean Islands in 1949. Do it again, Lord. Do it in our time. Let us see that beautiful, precious thing that turns the tide, that changes society. We need revival.